What's up, comic book fans, and welcome to Comics Icons. Now, JJ, what they call me, and today we got more gang war. This time with Deadly Hands of Kung Fu Gang War issue number 3, the final issue of this Shang-Chi miniseries. And if you need to get caught up with how we got here, I'll leave a card at the top of the screen, along with a link to the playlist at the end of this video. But as a quick refresher, in the first issue, when this gang war kicked off, Shang-Chi made a promise to Spider-Man that he would keep the Five Weapon Society out of this war and stick to Chinatown. Then when Shang-Chi was double-crossed by his Captain Fang, he was then cut off from accessing his 10 rings when Fang had his sorcerers put a spell on them. Then in issue 2, knowing that his enemies realized that he no longer had the 10 rings, Shang-Chi decided to coax them into fighting each other, making the streets of New York City even hotter for these citizens. But this move then garnered the attention of Mayor Luke Cage, who decided to gather the heroes together to put an end to Shang-Chi. So if you guys are ready to see how Shang-Chi fares against those Marvel heroes, while still maintaining control of Chinatown, all without his 10 rings, then you know what time it is. Let's get it. So we kick this issue off with Shang-Chi and his Five Weapon Society soldiers patrolling the streets of Chinatown and insisting that all the businesses lock up early for safety, when Grandma Sang pushes back on Shang-Chi for not being able to guarantee their safety. See, she had even gone so far as to send for her daughter to come stay there because Captain Fang had already told them that they'd be safe. But Shang-Chi lets her know that Captain Fang flipped on him and he fled with his sorcerers. But he also lets her know that they're not defenseless though, as his loyal sorcerers are using all of their power to shield everyone's homes. Then we switch over to the heroes as they're flying towards Chinatown in a Danny Rand helicopter. And Danny Rand ensures this group that his intel states that Shang-Chi definitely doesn't have access to those 10 rings. And although they can see that a defensive spell is protecting the neighborhood, Danny tells them that his scans show only one person in Shang-Chi's tower, and he's waiting on the roof. Now Luke Cage, he's still skeptical, just like in issue 2, and he thinks that this might be a trap. But She-Hulk doesn't care about traps because she's, well, you know, a Hulk. So then she leaps out of the helicopter and attacks, and Luke Cage and Tombstone follow suit. Then when Luke Cage and She-Hulk go to lunge right at Shang-Chi, they fall straight through the roof. And then it's revealed by Tombstone that it's lined with paper flooring. But then Spider-Man, he swings in with his webs and he goes in to attack. But Shang-Chi is able to dodge old Spidey. But as Spider-Man gives chase, he lets Shang-Chi know that he can't compete with Spidey. He's stronger, faster, and Shang-Chi taught him his moves, as he's able to dodge Shang-Chi's attacks. But then Shang-Chi lets him know that he didn't teach Spider-Man anything that he couldn't defend himself against. And as Spidey goes to throw a punch, Shang-Chi catches his arm and redirects it, then unleashes Spidey's web shooters towards Tombstone, who had just pulled out his gun. And then Shang is able to web up Spider-Man as well. Shang-Chi is making these guys all look foolish right now. But then Danny Rand steps up to the plate, and we all know how proficient he is with Kung Fu, but he's not the Iron Fist anymore, and no competition for Shang-Chi, who reminds him of such. But Danny lets Shang-Chi know that he knows Shang-Chi won't defeat him, because he knows Shang-Chi is pulling all his punches. He's not been trying to disable them at all, and he's just toying with them. But Shang-Chi assures him that he's not doing it as an insult. He's doing it out of respect, because when the time comes, he needs them to do what they do. And as Shang-Chi tells them to get ready, the Inner Demons, Clan Yulan, and Hydra all crash the party. Shang-Chi knew that they'd team up and come after them, so he laid the perfect trap for the heroes to team up with him. I really like this dude. But now the heroes are in a real fight. Although they're not exactly thrilled about Shang-Chi dumping his fight on them, they realize that it's also their fight as well, since these guys are villains anyway. Meanwhile, as the heroes are engaged in that battle, Shang-Chi goes to check on his 10 rings. But when he gets to them, he's confronted by Captain Fang, who's taking advantage of all the chaos and comes for the rings himself. He lets Shang-Chi know that he deserves them more, and the life and death of the Five Weapon Society depends on it, because Shang-Chi was never prepared to defend it. But this is when Shang-Chi puts him up on game. He manipulated his enemies into attacking each other. He manipulated the heroes into attacking his enemies. And although he has different goals from his father, he will always do what needs to be done. But when he tells Fang to have his sorcerers release his rings, they instead attack Shang-Chi with their magic, putting him down for the moment. Then as the sorcerers continue their attack on Shang-Chi, Fang goes for those rings, and as the sorcerers tell him that the spell is lifted, Fang lets Shang-Chi know that the rings seek a true champion. And Shang-Chi, he couldn't agree more, as he then calls the rings back to him. Then he reminds Fang about one of his father's lessons. Do not take your enemy's bait. And as Fang tells his sorcerers to destroy him, it's game over for them and the rest of Shang-Chi's enemies. As he takes out Fang's men, along with Clan Yulan, the Inner Demons, and Hydra. And as the heroes now realize that he has those rings back, Captain Fang lets Shang-Chi know that maybe it was Shang-Chi that took his bait, that this city and this world should belong to Shang-Chi. Then after all the chaos has calmed down, Shang-Chi goes back to patrolling his neighborhood. And again, he stops by to visit Grandma Sang. And although Chinatown is safe again, she still complains that she lost half a day's business. And why is it that he's not stopped the war that rages on in the rest of the city? But he lets her know that that's his next order of business. But first, he likes some of that ice cream from her shop. Then he's visited by his lady, Delilah, who asks him if he's okay now, to which he lets her know that he is. And when he asks her if they're okay relationship-wise, she doesn't know. It depends on what he does next. So he tells her that he doesn't need to hide so much from her now that he's shown his hand. And now he'll help the heroes end this gang war. Then he asks if he can see her again after that, to which she replies maybe. And then she drops an Art of War line on him, but on a field of her choosing. Then he lets her know that it's now time for him to show his friends who he really is. And then he joins them in the fight for the rest of New York City, which will conclude in the Amazing Spider-Man number 44. Because ladies and gentlemen, that's the end of this issue. So what did you guys think? I thought it was a pretty dope story, man. A pretty cool miniseries. Shang-Chi proved that even without his 10 rings, that he's strong enough and savvy enough to hold his own. And with the 10 rings, he's pretty much an unstoppable force. And I really like how this issue showed how he was playing the setup game on pretty much everybody. He manipulated the heroes into thinking that he was the enemy, only to have them help take down the true enemies. Shang-Chi showed that he's got plenty of game, and these guys can really learn a thing or two from him. I kind of feel like, even though I've admitted that the Spider-Woman storyline right now is probably my favorite, with Hydra taking control of her son, this one here is a close second. And if Spider-Woman doesn't stick the landing in her series, then this one can easily overtake it for me. But you guys let me know which one is your favorite so far. And I definitely can't wait to see how this whole thing comes to an end and how he affects the upcoming Spider-Man number 44, which we won't have to wait too long to get. But I love to hear from you guys. Like I said, which series has been your favorite so far during this whole gang war event? And as always, if you guys enjoyed this video and this channel and you'd like to support the channel, then you could do so by joining the new Iconic Fan Club channel membership. And with it, you'll gain access to weekly interactive live streams with yours truly in front of the camera, loyalty badges, member shoutouts, and more. Or you can donate to the channel with a super thanks. And if you're not able to do that, then you can also help out by dropping a like, share, and subscribing to Comics Icons for more icons in the comic book world. But ladies and gentlemen, it's about that time. I'm out. Peace.